So if I was sitting at one of your tables and I was telling a story and I suddenly said, "Where was I?" you would realize I forgot my place, you'd remind me, and I'd continue with the story. But for this particular story, this road trip, I was asking myself the question, where was I, for years, because I never knew the name of the destination of the road trip. But now I do, and I can explain. In 1971, I was a 17-year-old hippie chick who used to run around barefoot in my bell-bottom jeans with all my other hippie friends. And one night, my friend Bongo, we were hanging at this park in Scranton. He said, does anybody want to go to a rock festival? Now, this was 2 years after Woodstock, but the idea was still really appealing, so I said, okay. He said, well, the thing is, it's in Canada, and we're going to have to hitchhike there. And I said, okay. So we snuck into Bongo's parents' house and we filled a knapsack with some food. And then he said, oh, you know, that bare feet, you know, my dad's feet are kind of small. Why don't you take a pair of his work boots? So I put them on. They were a little big, but sturdy enough. And the next thing you know, we're up on Route 81 hitchhiking to Canada. So Bongo wasn't much of a talker, but he had a really nice smile, and I have this image sitting in the back seat of this stranger's car that night and just his shiny white teeth smiling like we were on this adventure. So the next morning we get to the Canadian border, but they wouldn't let us across because you had to have so much money per day for every day you were there, and of course we probably had no money, I'm sure. So we're standing back in upstate New York feeling really bummed out that we have to go home, when this pretty young woman in a Volkswagen Beetle picks us up, and we tell her our story, and she said, oh, you know, I can get you across the border, but it'll be illegal. So we looked at each other and said, okay. So she drives us, she says, well, my sugar daddy has a boat and he can get you across, you know, the St. Lawrence River, so whatever. So we go to this big mansion and all these other pretty young women are running around and we meet the sugar daddy. And the next thing you know, we're bouncing over the waves of the St. Lawrence River and Bongo's smiling at me like, here we go. So we scramble up the riverbank and put our thumbs out again, and we made it to this festival, which was on a farm, and we climbed over a fence because we didn't have the money for admission. And after that, I really only remember bits and pieces because I was at a rock festival. I remember a lot of music and a lot of people. I remember at one point eating an entire can of black olives from Bongo's pantry. I remember the next morning waking up in a field and looking over and seeing a big group of cows not very far away. And this was a crazy part because, of course, it was pre-cell phone. Thousands of people are there, and we run into a group of our friends from Scranton, including this guy Cheesehead, who said that we could get a ride home with him. So, but what I don't remember, because I never knew it in the first place, was where was this festival? So a couple years ago, I went to the Oracle Google, and I typed in Rock Festival Canada, summer 1971, and I got a hit. It was held at the it was called the, Rock Acres Peace Festival. Rock Acres Peace Festival held on this 200-acre farm just west of Queensborough, Ontario, August 6th, August 8th, 1971. Yes! There was a whole article written about it so I could fill in the gaps in my memory. So I found out there were 7,000 people there, which wasn't exactly Woodstock, but it was enough to overwhelm this tiny Canadian village with its one general store. They said that there were a lot of people skinny dipping at a nearby pond. I would have remembered that, I'm sure. But so I also found out that the only name band there was a group called the Stampeders, who had the hit single Sweet City Woman. I don't know if anybody remembers it. Sweet, sweet city woman. Anyway, the craziest part, my favorite discovery, was that the festival ended a few hours earlier because 50 members of a Canadian biker gang called Satan's Choice stormed the stage and terrorized the fans. Well, I definitely don't remember that part because I must have been either in the cow field or left field or strawberry fields forever. I'm sure you got my drift. But what I do recall, the last two parts of the story, was riding home, squeezed into Cheesehead's car with all my other friends, stopping at this rest stop, going in the bathroom, looking at myself in the mirror for the first time in days, and my hair was its usual, you know, cross between Janis Joplin and Edie Brickell, like wild wavy hair. But I had to laugh because there was this fine layer of dust and dirt all over my sunburned face. So then we get back to Scranton, and I kicked off Bongo's father's boots, handed them back to him. I'm sure he gave me one of those famous smiles. Then I let my trusty bare feet head me back in the direction of home. Thank you.